The date is January 25th, 2022, and we are at the famed Marion Union Station in Marion, Ohio. To begin the video off, we first see what I believe to be NS 234, an eastbound daily intermodal train led by NS 8026 and 9660. I'm going to try and learn about all the various types of trains that I have seen whenever I go out. As I said, I believe this is train 234. At first, I thought this was train 21N, a train that runs from Livernois Yard in Detroit, Michigan to Rickenbacker Yard in Columbus, Ohio. But when I looked into it on YouTube, recent videos of 21N showed me that that might not be the case. Anyway, if I'm right or wrong on this one, tell me in the comment section below. NS 8026 is a GE ES44AC built in 2010, and NS 9660 is a GE C44-9W built in 2001. The reason why I was up here today was because I heard that the CSX Office Car Special was on a run from Cincinnati, Ohio to North Baltimore, Ohio today, and they planned on going all the way back down to Russell, Kentucky. From what I heard that day, they planned on going down the Columbus subdivision, so I decided to sit up here to wait for it. The line we are looking at 21N on is NS's Sandusky District, which runs from Sandusky to Columbus, Ohio. There are two more main lines that cross here. The Mount Victory subdivision, running east-west from Bell Fountain to Greenwich, Ohio, and the Columbus subdivision, running north-south from Toledo to Columbus, Ohio, both owned by CSX. After 21N got by, I then decided to go inside to warm up. The Marion Union Station is a museum run by the Marion Union Station Association, and inside they house many railroad artifacts from the past. Although I've been here many times over the years, and the museum hosts a large collection of switchboards on display, this particular switchboard caught my attention on this day. As I was walking by it, I saw the word Valley Crossing written upon it. Upon further inspection, this switchboard used to control the train movements for the Chesapeake and Ohio and later CSX at the south end of Parsons Yard, which included Valley Crossing. Before the days of widespread control of railroads from big dispatch centers, many sections of railroad where junctions were used to be controlled by buildings called towers. Towers, such as the preserved AC Tower, were everywhere and were responsible for the operation of trains in their section of railroad. For example, AC Tower was responsible for the train movements on all three lines located here, as shown on the map inside the tower. Getting back to our switchboard, this one once was located in a tower called HX Cabin. Unlike many other railroads, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad preferred to call their towers cabins. Using this picture from ColumbusRailroads.com, HX Cabin was this small building on the right, which used to be located at the south end of Parsons Yard. It served the C&O and later CSX between 1964 and 1988, when control of the area was moved to CSX's dispatch center in Jacksonville, Florida. The building was demolished in 1988, leaving only this switchboard as the only remaining remnant of HX cabin. As of today, there are only a small handful of operating towers left in North America. For example, Tower A2 in Chicago and Delray Tower in Detroit, Michigan. After looking around the building for another minute or two, I then heard a horn outside and went outside to investigate. Train I-008 is a Tuesday through Sunday intermodal train that carries intermodal traffic between St. Louis, Missouri and New York, New York. CSX 824 is a GE ES44AC-H built in 2008, and CSX 3286 is a ET44AH built in 2015. As I-008 continued to roll on by, I was thinking to myself how great it was to finally be able to see the CSX office car special in its new Baltimore and Ohio inspired paint scheme. The first time the OCS ran through Columbus back in November of 2021, I completely missed it. I tried driving out to Marion to wait for it, only to hear it on my scanner in Delaware, heading south. After I got myself turned around, I saw nothing but taillights from both the cars and train alike. To make a long story short, by the time the OCS got into Parsons Yard that day, I had completely missed any opportunities to practically see the train, let alone film or photograph it. So, when I heard that the train was coming back, I got excited, and when the day came, I decided to drive up here to wait for it. When I-008 got by, I decided to go back to my car to check on the progress of the OCS, only to discover that it was now on the Toledo Branch subdivision heading south and nearing Ridgeway, Ohio. The Toledo Branch Sub is another north-south line that runs from Toledo through North Baltimore and onto Ridgeway, Ohio. Continuing south from Ridgeway, another subdivision called the Scott's Long Secondary continues south to Columbus. From what I heard, the CSX office car special was planning on getting to Russell, Kentucky sometime around 3 or 4 p.m. But that morning, the train had a late start out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and as the train continued its journey, it only got later and later. So, by the time they reached North Baltimore, Ohio, I believe a decision was made. Instead of waiting for the crew change to happen at Fostoria to take the train to Russell via the Columbus subdivision, the executives decided to immediately call for a new crew in North Baltimore to take their train down the Toledo Branch and Scott's Long Secondary subdivisions to get them to Columbus faster, and by extension, Russell faster. With this new information in hand, I bid farewell to Marion and made a mad dash back to Columbus because I knew that was my only shot at seeing this train. We are now at the High Street Bridge in Columbus, Ohio. Luckily for me, I had made it with time to spare. As the sun began to set over the horizon, the lights of CSX number 1 appeared around the bend, and I got set up to watch the CSX office car special roll by. When CSX repainted their executive fleet in early 2021, they also renamed all their passenger cars as well, from states and important cities they served to names of important businessmen who or were important to CSX and its predecessor railroads. CSX 994363, the Champion M. Davis, was originally named Kentucky. Mr. Davis was the president of the Atlantic Coastline Railroad and was responsible for the merger of both the ACL and the Seaboard Airline Railroad to become the Seaboard Coastline Railroad. CSX 994362, the David M. Leven, was originally named Louisiana. Mr. Leven was the very last president and chief executive of Conrail just before the split-up in 1998. CSX 994500, the John W. Smith, was originally named Ohio. Mr. Smith was the last president and chairman of the Seaboard Airline Railroad, and when the Seaboard Coastline merger happened, he stayed as the chairman of that railroad. We'll now move to my second camera to get another angle of the executive train. CSX 994315, the John W. Snow, was originally named Indiana. Mr. Snow was the first president and CEO of CSX Transportations and was responsible for the creation of the modern CSX transportation system as we know it today. CSX 994300, the Alvin R. Carpenter, was originally named North Carolina. Mr. Carpenter served as CSX Transportation's president between 1992 and 1999 and stayed as vice chairman of the railroad until 2001 when he retired. Unlike the other coach cars we've seen thus far, CSX 994525, the E. Hunter Harrison, is one of the newest business cars purchased for CSX's executive fleet. Mr. Harrison served as CSX's CEO in 2017 and was responsible for the new precision scheduled railroading philosophy CSX has implemented in recent years. The only reason why he served for only a short time was because he passed away on December 16, 2017, due to severe complications from an illness. CSX 994526 is one of two passenger cars owned by CSX that breaks the businessman naming convention as it's named Moonlight Dome. Moonlight Dome is another new passenger car acquired in 2020 from the Cincinnati Railway Company. As part of the acquisition, CSX also acquired ex-Southern Pacific passenger car Beech Grove, which now runs around on CSX's geometry train as CSX 994527, still wearing its Southern Pacific Golden State Limited colors. The Moonlight Dome has now become one of my favorite passenger cars of the fleet, for which the reason we'll see in a little bit. As the train makes its way to Parsons Yard, let's head back in time to see what the train looked like only just a few years ago. The last time I saw this train was back on November 23, 2019, when it was pulling the famed CSX Santa Train. This was the 77th running of the CSX Santa Train. Here we see the two leading locomotives parked in Kingston, Tennessee, and we'll take the opportunity to talk about them now. CSX 9998 was built in 1978 as Amtrak 280 and is now CSX number 1. Behind what is now CSX number 1 is CSX 9993. 9993 was built in 1985 as Amtrak 395 and is now CSX number 2. Both engines back in 2019 were wearing their own interpretation of what was called the YN3 paint scheme with the boxcar logo. Both engines were originally built as EMD F40 PHRs. The F40 PHRs were engines built using parts from another locomotive known as the SDP-40F. In late 2018 and early 2019, both engines were rebuilt as F40PH-2s. We have now moved to a place called the Clinch Overlook in the Breaks Interstate Park in Virginia. Here, the overlooks provide a great view of the CSX Santa Train as it rolls through the breaks. As the train rolls through the breaks, let's get back to talking about the other passenger cars we saw in present day. CSX 994011, the Michael J. Ward, was first named the Youngstown and later Pennsylvania before acquiring its current name. Mr. Ward was yet another chairman and CEO of CSX and served for them between 2003 and 2017. CSX 994307, the Alfred E. Perlman, was originally named Washington and later Waycross. Mr. Perlman served as president of the famed New York Central Railroad and later the Penn Central Railroad after the NYC-PRR merger. CSX 994317, the Hayes T. Watkins Jr., was originally named Baltimore. Mr. Watkins Jr. served as president and CEO of both the Chesapeake and Ohio and the Baltimore and Ohio Railroads between 1971 and 1978 during the Csx System era. When both railroads merged, he then became president of the Csx System. When CSX was created, he then served as president and co-CEO of the new system at the time. CSX 994010, the John T. Collinson, was originally named New York. Mr. Collinson was Mr. Watkins' successor as president of the B&O and C&O. He also served as chairman of both the Csx System and the Seaboard System, later in 1985. Another place we saw the famed CSX Santa Train was at the Clinchfield/Norfolk and Western Railroad Bridge crossing Route 270/4th Avenue in St. Paul, Virginia. The last car of the passenger train is CSX 994009, the W. Thomas Rice, which used to be named the Massachusetts. Mr. Rice served as president of the ACL between 1957 and 1967. He then became president, director, and CEO of the Seaboard Coastline Railroad after the ACL-SAL merger in 1967. He then rose through the ranks to become chairman of the new Family Line system, which controlled the Seaboard Coastline Railroad. Then, in 1980, Mr. Rice, along with Watkins Jr., then came together and created CSX by combining their two railroad systems, and he became known as the father of CSX. Once the merger was completed, he then became Chairman Emeritus of CSX. As the train makes its stop in St. Paul, Virginia, let's head back to the present day. If you wish to see more of the 77th CSX Santa Train, or more of what the executive train looked like in the past, I suggest checking out my other videos covering the CSX Santa Train. I documented the 75th, 76th, and the 77th running of this train, and even made a Christmas music video combining all trips. I'll leave a link in the description box down below so you guys can go check that out. Sadly, thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic that swept across the nation, the 78th and the 79th running of the CSX Santa Train was cancelled, being replaced with drive-in stops along the route. Hopefully 2022 might be the year the 80th CSX Santa Train might make its grand comeback, hopefully. Getting back to the present day, we now find ourselves just off of Lockbourne Road / Route 13, just northeast of Lockbourne, Ohio. As I was exploring Parsons Yard, I heard on my scanner that P001 was ready to depart for Russell, and I got set up down here to wait for it. Pay attention to the tree line as the train runs by. You'll see why in a second. And there was the reason why the Moonlight Dome is my favorite coach car of the OCS. Moonlight Dome, along with the W. Thomas Rice, was fitted with bright LED strips and light fixtures in order to light up the railroad at night, so that executives on board can see the railroad line itself. Let's finish this video off by going to my second camera and seeing the train one more time. As the train continues its journey through the darkness, this is where we'll end our journey. Despite what happened, I'm glad I was able to see this beautiful train, and I hope to see it again in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this first video of 2022. I have some great videos in the works right now that I hope to get out sometime this year. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day. See you later!